So, folks, we have started the session recording for day one. This is the first module about product introduction. All of you mentioned that this is the first interaction you are having with HSMs and payment HSM PayShield. So, let us first introduce this product to all of you. This is the course agenda, what we will be covering in the next few days. So, what exactly is this PayShield and what all what all you can expect in the front panel of the hardware, what all options are, what all tools are there are in the rear panel of the hardware, the management interface, how you can manage your PayShield 10K appliances, commissioning PayShield 10K. When you first install your PayShield 10K, you have to commission it. What exactly is meant by commissioning and what are the steps involved in the commissioning, we'll cover in this training. Then we'll talk about PayShield Manager, the graphical interface to manage your PayShield 10K. Always we have two interfaces. We have a command line interface. We have a graphical interface. It's always the customer preference, what they want to use, what is convenient for them to use. So we'll talk about both of them. Local master keys. What is the key hierarchy in your PayShield 10K? We'll talk about that. Host. Definitely your PayShield 10K is serving your host application. How you configure your PayShield 10K and how host communicates with your PayShield 10K, we'll talk about that. Zone master keys, PCI certification. If you have to perform an audit and health check on your PayShield 10K, what all functionalities are there, what all features are there on the product, we'll talk about that. Decommissioning PayShield 10K. If due to any reason you have to reset, wipe out every information on your PayShield 10K, how you can do that. You will see this in the demonstration as well. Once I'll demo that, I have a PayShield 10K running, I'll decommission it before we go to the step commissioning. And maintaining your PayShield will also be covered in this particular module. So we have already done with the introduction and thank you all for that. So in this module number one, our objective is to understand about this product HSM. What is HSM stand for? Then we're going to talk about the payment HSM, that is PayShield 10K. Where exactly PayShield 10K fits into a payment chain. We have transactions happening across the world. We have payments happening across the world in real time. So where exactly the PayShield 10K fits into this payment industry? What is the flexibility and security features for the PayShield 10K? Use cases and what are the different standards which this product is currently serving. We will cover that in module number one, that is product introduction. PayShield 10K is a hardware security module. It is an HSM. HSM stands for hardware security module. So we all know in a cryptography, we have processes like encryption, we have processes like decryption. So if I bring this whiteboard quickly, let me bring that here. So in cryptography, we have processes like encryption. We have a plain text and we convert the plain text to ciphertext. I'm just taking an example where you have a plain text like 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you perform encryption, you have A hash 2, 6, B 5 and some random data. You cannot get any useful information from this ciphertext. So this process is called encryption. To achieve this encryption, we have cryptographic keys. We have keys which are required for this particular operation. Decryption is a process when we get the plain text back from the ciphertext. This process is called as decryption. If we want to secure the ciphertext, the proper security of the cryptographic keys is very important. If your cryptographic keys are compromised, then anyone can simply get the plain text back from your ciphertext. So to secure these cryptographic keys, you have a solution called as HSM. So the purpose of HSM is to secure your cryptographic keys so that the encryption and decryption can be performed securely. If you have a ciphertext, then no one can simply access that cryptographic keys and perform the decryption. So the main purpose of HSM is to store your cryptographic keys in a hardware solution where your cryptographic keys are stored. So the payment world, you have in partially 10K, your hardware. The cryptographic keys are securely stored inside your HSM. You have a host application, payment application. They will send you some command in a proper structure. Your partial HSMs will try to understand. They will understand what is the command wants to operate. If the command is valid, the permission, the application which is performing, they are authorized to do that operation. With the help of the keys which are residing on the HSM, they will generate a response. And then your payment application will understand that response. Folks, just give me 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that. So this is how your payment application will interact with your HSM. What is the structure of the command? What is the structure of the response? We'll learn in this training. How your partial 10K understand that. What kind of host application are allowed and how your HSM validate the host applications or not. We'll learn in this training ahead. So this HSM ensures that the cryptographic keys, they are securely generated and they are securely used. They are tamper-proof devices. If an attacker tries to access your partial 10K forcefully, your HSM will respond to that attack. They are tamper reactive. Once the keys are generated inside your HSM, they are not allowed to leave HSM in a plain text form. They can only be used within your HSM boundary. So we all know that the entire payment transaction, if you go to a merchant location and you purchase something, the entire payment transaction take hardly few seconds. But in the real world scenario, there are multiple steps involved for your payment transaction to be completed. So this process of moving money from one entity to another, you have multiple entities which are involved in between. So let's say you went to a shop and you make a purchase using your debit card or a credit card. You have a bank account with bank number A. This is your issuer bank. But the merchant have a bank account with a different bank. Let's say this is B. So you presented your information, your card, your PIN at your merchant location. Your merchant don't know about your account number because this bank is different. This is a bank B. So what will happen in the background is your merchant location point of sale will forward this request which will have information of your PIN and some additional data. This information will be sent to your acquirer bank. Acquirer bank will have interaction with the switch network. There are multiple switch networks. You have MasterCard, Visa, Link, uh, Amex, multiple switch networks which are there in between. Then this switch network will find out which bank you want to forward this request to, the issuer bank, bank A. Now your switch network will forward this request to your card issuer bank. This bank have information about your account, whether you have the sufficient balance or not, whether the PIN number you input is correct or not. Based on all these validation, a response will be sent, whether it will be approved or it will be rejected. So the response also follow the same structure, the same flow. The response from the issuer bank will first send to the switch network. Switch network will forward the response to the merchant's bank. We call it acquirer, and then the merchant's bank will issue the forward the response to the merchant location, the point of sale location. So this complete process hardly take couple of seconds, but these are multiple entities which are there in between. So acquirer, this is the bank on the merchant side, and we call it issuer. The issuer bank is the one with which you have your account, your debit account or a credit account. This is your issuer bank, and this is your acquirer bank. So where exactly the spatial devices fits into this payment flow? So you require your payment spatial HSMs at your acquirer location, at your switch location, at your card issuer bank location. We'll have a demo for this as well, how this particular flow is happening. You will see that in the demonstration as well. So you don't require any hardware, any spatial devices at the merchant location directly. No, it's not required. But once the requests are forwarded, then you require spatial 10K devices. It is not mandatory that acquirer bank have the same spatial 10K, switch have the same spatial 10K, your payment issuer bank have the same spatial 10K. All these have different hardwares. They have their individual hardware, they have their own hardware, they have their own hardware. If we talk about ATM terminals, same process is happening. You are inputting your card, you are giving your PIN, then let's say same example, you have a bank account with bank A. Now you are using ATM terminal of bank B. This is bank B. You are using ATM terminal of a different bank. Then the ATM terminal will forward the request to the acquirer bank, bank B. Bank B will forward the request to the switch. Switch network will forward the request to the bank A, your issuer bank. And similarly, response will be sent back to the ATM terminal. So I mentioned earlier that you have different spatial 10K in these different locations. So even though they have different locations, different hardwares, so how exactly your data is protected? So your data is protected with the help of cryptographic zone. We call it crypto zone. So between two entities, you establish a crypto zone. And when we say establish a crypto zone, it means these two entities have a shared key, have a same key between them. You have a key which is present here. You have a key, cryptographic key, which is also present here. So when the data leave your ATM terminal, it will be encrypted. It will be encrypted with a key. It will be sent back to your acquirer bank. Acquirer bank will have the same set of key, so they will be able to decrypt it. Then they will re-encrypt your data with the key which is common between the acquirer bank and the switch network. Then when the data for validation is received at the switch network, it is decrypted again. The key which is common between your acquirer and switch will be used for decryption. And then your data will be re-encrypted. This re-encrypted with a key which is common between your issuer bank and your switch network. So crypto zone is a zone between two entities which share a same set of keys. So you have a zone here between an native terminal and an acquirer. You have a zone here between your acquirer and your switch. You have a zone here between your issuer bank and your switch. So that is how your data is traversing in your payment chain. So your secret data, they can only follow a designated path. And when the response is generated, it is also secret. It will also follow the same designated path. So the keys in every crypto zone is different. You have your terminal keys here. You have your zone pin key here. Every key which is there in your crypto zone is different. So have you heard of the word key wrapping? Anyone heard of that? Key wrapping? Anyone heard of it? Key wrapping? Yes, no. Okay. So key wrapping is a process. Oh, yes, Bruno Rodriguez said yes. Okay. So you want to share with the audience what exactly key wrapping stands for? Okay, I'll wait for his response in the chat. Okay, let me continue. It is gonna take time. So key wrapping, it is a process where you encrypt one key. Yes, Divya?
Yes, and if I don't think I'm all right, okay with this. And key wrapping is a cryptographic construct that uses symmetric encryption that encapsulates key material, right?
Absolutely right. Yes, that is it is. So you encrypt one keys with another key. That is key wrapping. So the key wrapping is the main fundamental behind your PayShield 10K operation. You have your multiple set of keys which are used in your PayShield 10K environment. I'm just gonna name few of them. You have your LMK, local master key, ZMK, zone master key, TMK, terminal master key, ZBK, zone pin key, TPK, terminal pin key, TEK, terminal authentication key, PVK, pin verification key. So you have in the payment PayShield 10K world, you have multiple keys which are involved. The main key which is there, which is stored inside your PayShield 10K is your LMK, local master key. This is the only key which is stored inside your hardware, the hardware PayShield 10K. Other than that, all the keys are outside your PayShield boundary. But all of these keys, they are encrypted directly or not directly with your local master key. So if you have to utilize these keys, you must have access to the local master key. That is, the payment application must have access to the PayShield 10K. This process is key wrapping. You have your local master key residing inside your PayShield 10K, then all of your other keys are encrypted with the local master key. So LMK, they never leaves your hardware. They are generated and secured by the hardware. That is your PayShield 10K. And the main role of LMK is to encrypt your keys. Which kind of keys which are encrypted? They are key encrypting keys. The second level of keys in the hierarchy. It can be a zone master key or a terminal master key. These are key encrypting keys. They are not directly encrypting the other keys. Sorry, they are not directly encrypting your data, but they are encrypting your working keys. What are the working keys? You have zone pin key, terminal pin key. These are the keys which will actually encrypt your data, your account number, your data files. But they are further encrypted using zone master key or a terminal master key. So this hierarchy is followed. We have a demonstration as well where exactly LMK is created. Then LMK will be used to generate your encrypt your ZMK. Then your ZMK is used to encrypt your ZPK. You will see that in the demo as well. And this key hierarchy which will be very clear to all of you. But remember LMK, the local master key, it is the this is the only key which is stored inside your partial 10K. Other keys are encrypted with your LMKs. The more we will be coming to this key hierarchy again once we deep dive into the keys part. So what are the benefits that are delivered by payment HSM, that is partial 10K? This device, this product HSMs, protects your brand by securing your applications. You don't have any exposure of your sensitive data. All your keys and your pins, they are encrypted. Whenever your payment application have to utilize a key, they have to send the request to the partial 10K. Partial 10K will have LMKs installed, and with the help of LMK, they will generate your responses. Your sensitive data and algorithms, they are locked inside your hardware. In a tamper-proof environment, your local master keys are secure. If your LMKs are deleted, all of your other keys will be unusable. Because if you come back to this diagram here, if these keys are gone, you cannot convert your ciphertext back to the plain text. You always require access to the cryptographic keys to convert ciphertext back to plain text. That is, if you have to perform decryption, cryptographic keys must be there. It is secure from attack by people inside or outside your organization. In your partial 10K, you have a concept of multiple authorized users. You have a left administrator, you have a right administrator. If you have to do some secure operation on your partial 10K, then those two administrators are required. A single person is not allowed to change configuration on your partial 10K. That's how it is secure from inside your organization. We have cryptographic security mandated by different standards. We meets Visa, MasterCard, and American Express requirements. Very important PCI DSS, payment card industry data security standard. We are fully compliant with that. PCI PIN. Your organization, they cannot meet these standards without an HSM. If you don't have an HSMs, then these standards are not satisfied. Change is the law of nature, and this law is applied on the payment industry as well. There are few algorithms which are now deprecated, which are no longer secure, and there are few additional algorithms which are now added and they are now secure. So your partial 10K is backward compatible. If you have to use a module which your payment applications are still using and which is now no longer used in the payment world, but still if you want to use it, we have a licenses for that to provide you some legacy feature. So this is again not added in all the hardwares. You require separate licenses for that. If we talk about certification, Your PayShield 10K, they are FIPS 140-2 level 3 certified. This is a certification which PayShield 10K have achieved. They have achieved FIPS 186-2 digital signature standard, FIPS approved random number generator. So if you are generating your LMKs inside your PayShield 10K, they are very secure because of this approved random number generator. The algorithms which are supported on your PayShield 10K, they are again FIPS approved, 3DES, AES, RSA, and SHA. Certification PCI HSM, PCI PTS, and PCI pin-to-pin, PCI pin transaction security, and PCI point-to-point encryption. We have received certification for all these standards. If you want to know about regional standards, we have certification for MEPS, which is a French banking industry standard, APAX, Association for Payment Clearing Services, which is a UK standard, ZKA, which is a Germany standard, and AS2805, which is a Australian standard. If you want to know about all the certification about a particular release, about a particular version, make sure you check the CRN, Customer Release Note. With every release of PayShield 10K, we release Customer Release Note. That Customer Release Note will have that information about what all versions, what all certification that product have achieved, or what's the plan, what is the expected certification which is currently submitted, and we are waiting for the response. So please check the Customer Release Note always. This slide is just for your information about some standards which are implemented. We have for message authentication code, we have ISO 8730/1, smart card specifications for EMV, secure hash signature using FIPS 180-2, and much more. For your key exchange, we support TR31. PIN management and security, we support this format ANSIX X and 9.8. So this might be useful for your payment applications. So we have the support for major industry payment softwares. You might already be using few of those software. If the software which you are using you currently don't find in this particular slide, please check our documentation page. It would be supported. And if you find any new software which needs to be validated by PayShield 10K, you can always get in touch with the support team and they can provide you that information, whether the new software is already supported or whether it is in plan uh, to support that in future. So always get that information from the support team. So before I talk about the technical benefits about PayShield 10K, any questions, anyone? Perfect. So if we talk about the technical benefits, you have protection of your cryptographic keys. This is the most important advantage of your PayShield 10K. The hardware-based solutions are always recommended to secure your cryptographic keys. They are in a tamper-resistant environment, tamper-proof environment where your cryptographic keys will be stored. You have dual control. Multiple authorized people are required to perform sensitive operations. You have your left administrator, you have your right administrator, you have your authorizing card 1, you have authorizing officer 2. So multiple individuals are there to perform, they have a role responsibility segregation. Responsibility done by these two cannot be done by authorizing officers. So separation of duty is there. The keys which you will be generating on your PayShield 10K, they are cryptographically strong because of the FIPS approved random number generator. You have key separation for different usage. You have your LMKs. LMKs will be encrypting your zone master key. If you have a terminal, ATM terminal, you have a terminal master key. If you want to encrypt a pin, there is a pin encryption key. If you want to authenticate, there's a separate key for that. If you want to encrypt your data, there's a separate key for that. So you have different key separation for different usage. This is very good advantage of PayShield 10K. So if your PayShield application didn't provided you the correct key, the PayShield 10K is not going to serve that request. They're going to refuse that request. If on the same hardware you also have an option of installing multiple LMKs. So different application can use different LMKs. So cryptographic separation is there, where keys which is used by one application is not utilized by another. You can have this kind of a environment as well. So cryptographic capabilities of your PayShield 10K involves your data protection. You can perform message encryption, authentication, and digital signatures. Both the symmetric and asymmetric algorithm are supported. So in symmetric algorithm, you have one key which will be used to perform encryption and decryption. In asymmetric, you have two keys, a public and a private. So both of the algorithms are supported on PayShield 10K. And for key management, we support range of key management schemes used in the payments industry. So all the FIPS approved algorithms are supported on the PayShield 10K. Some of them are supported just for the backward compatibility. They are not recommended, like for example, SHA-1 and MD5. They are not DES. They are not recommended to be used. But if you have a payment application which still required to use those algorithms, you can enable them. You can still use them. So in terms of operation, what kind of payment application your operation can be done by your PayShield 10K? We support pin generation, pin mailers printer. If you want to if you want to print your pin mailers for your accounts, you can directly do that. Pin translation, verification of EMV, contactless and CVV payments can be supported by your PayShield 10K. For online user authentication, we support EMV MasterCard, which is CAP, chip authentication program, or Visa DPA, dynamic passcode authentication. Or if they are using the higher secure fraud detection 3D secure, we also support that. So how exactly your PayShield 10K can serve your host applications? So it can serve either via TCP/IP, it can either serve via UDP. If you have a payment applications on IBM mainframe, then we have a separate hardware for that. We call it FICON, fiber connection. So the hardware which you will receive will be either TCP UDP or FICON. So a separate model, separate hardware is required if you have IBM mainframe, which is hosting your payment applications. So you have to make this decision before purchasing it. It will be either FICON or either TCP UDP. So we have licenses based on different performance levels. So some customers have requirement to support high payment application, so they require high performance packages. Some have a medium requirement and some have very low performance requirement. So you don't have to purchase high performance packages if your payment application don't require this high number of command per second support. So this performance can be upgraded in the field. Let's say you have purchased a performance level of 25 command per second. Now you want to get 1000 command per second support. It is possible. The licenses can be applied during your patient life cycle and they can be upgraded in the field as well. So the different model we have is 25, 60, 250, 1000, 2500 or 10,000 command per second support. So this one is the latest one which we have added. Previously it was up to 2500 command per second. If you have a payment application that want to use asymmetric RSA keys, then for RSA operation, the performance number can vary. They depends on the key length and the operation to perform. So for example, even though your HSM is licensed to 2500 command per second, for RSA key pair generation, it will still be 80 command per second. So those numbers are completely different for your RSA performance, but other than that, the performance numbers are consistent. About the licenses. So depending on the operation which will be used, which will be performed by your patient 10K, you have different licenses. If you are, let's say, at a Visa or if you are a switch network, then you don't have to do card authentication, user authentication, or card issuing. You are just doing routing and validation of transactions. So this is if you are at your switch network. So you can go for classic package. But if you are a financial institution, if you work for a bank, then you have to also perform user authentication. You also have to perform card issuing. Then for that you require a premium package. These are the two levels, that is classic and premium. Then we have packages licenses based on the performance level. We have 25, 60, 250, 1000, 2500 if you have a classic package. If you have a premium, then you have additional 1000 command per second support as well. So these are the different licenses which are available. By now, I believe your organization have already decided whether you require classic or premium and what's the performance level you want to use. So these are the licenses. But if you want to upgrade, let's say if you want to go from classic to premium, your organization have to perform user authentication as well. They have to perform card issuing as well, and you want to upgrade to premium, you can do that. So there are different upgrade files. So this file number, this part number is for classic to premium upgrade. And if you want to upgrade the performance level, you have to go to from one step to another. So there will be a file that will, if you are on 25, then from 25 you have to go to 60, then 60 you have to go to 250, 250 to 1000 and so on. So it is a gradual process upgrading your performance level. You cannot directly go from 25 to 2500. You have to go this to this step. Now about licenses for your LMKs. These are some optional licenses. By default, if you're installing if you have just installed your PayShield 10K, then you have license support for two LMKs, one key block, one variant. What is key block, what is variant, we'll learn about that. But just to remember at this point that if you have no licenses, you still can create two LMKs on your PayShield 10K. But if you have a requirement to create additional LMKs, then you require licenses for that. So this is if you want to install two LMKs for 5, 10, and 20. So the maximum LMKs you can create is 20. 20 local master keys can be created on a single PayShield 10K maximum. These license files, they are not addictive. So it's not like you have installed this and total you have 7. No. So it will be either 2, either 5, either 10 or maximum 20. Remote PayShield Manager. So definitely very helpful licenses if you want to manage your PayShield 10K from a remote location over a graphical interface, then you require this remote PayShield Manager licenses. If you have licenses, we have separate license for Visa DSP, some legacy commands which are not supported in the latest releases, but still for backward compatibility, we provide a separate license file for that. Now about load balancing. How exactly your PayShield 10K will manage the load from your payment applications. So in the typical configuration, you have more than one unit. All of them, all of those units will have the same LMKs installed, local master keys installed. This will have LMK1. This will also have LMK1. This will also have LMK1. Your payment application require access to this LMKs. If one of the PayShield 10K is currently unavailable, it could be because of a network issues, it could be because of one hardware issue, and let's say this hardware is currently down, then your other PayShield applications can PayShield 10K can serve your load. But remember, there is no direct interaction between these LMKs or these HSMs. You have to manually install LMKs. You have to install LMKs, the same LMKs manually on all these hardwares. So you have to install LMKs on HSM number 1, then on 2, and then on 3. They will not be automatically replicated. So for that, to balance your load, once you have same LMKs installed on all the PayShield 10K, then you can have a load balancer in between, a switch in between, where if it identifies that one of the HSM is down, it will automatically serve the request to the other HSM, send the request to the other HSM. So you can install a load balancer, or you can configure your payment application in such a way that if HSM number is 1 is not there, send the request to HSM number 2. If the HSM number 2 is not there, send the request to HSM number 3. So either configure the application to send the request to all the pay shield, or have a load balancer in between. It could be an F5 load balancer, software load balancer, anything. So this is how your PayShield 10K can be used to manage your loads. It can be this configuration can be for load balancing or for high availability as well. You are using payment applications. You require 24/7 availability. If your payment application PayShield is down, if you are if you have just one device, then your entire PayShield 10K, your entire payment HSM structure will be dead. Your payment application cannot continue. So some applications, some organization, they cannot afford a downtime. That's why they will have multiple live units. So that one of them is down, other can continue. Any questions, anyone, before we take our first break? Okay, so now we can have our first break for the day, and I'll meet you all in 15 minutes from now. And take your time to log into this learning portal here. Uh, this portal here, all the slides which I'm covering, all the modules which I'm covering, it is already there. Go through them in the break or even after the session. If you have any questions, you want me to talk about a topic again, please let me know. And okay, let me get back to this slide and let's take our 15 minutes break and see you at 12:15. Thank you. Welcome back everyone to session number 2 for day 1. I hope you can see the pointer moving and you can hear me okay. Please let me know in the chat or
Yes, we can see your screen.
thank you, Jay. So now before the break we were talking about load balancing. So you can have a network load balancer like F5 local traffic manager, and you have to remember that each HSM operation should be atomic. The request, if if the request was sent by your application number 1 and it is served by HSM number 1, then for the response you have to ensure that the response is sent to your payment application number 1 only. So either everything occurs or nothing occurs. It should follow the same route, and it also have to be atomic. But there is no auto replication. It's not like you create LMK on this one and it will be auto replicated. No, you have to manually install the local master keys on all of the PayShield 10K, which will be talking to the same payment applications. You have flexibility in functionality. Some payment application environment can be unique, so we always have this option to build custom functionality. Like if you just have a switch network, you have, let's say, the visas or your Amex, they don't require premium packages. They don't have to perform user authentication and card issuing. So for them, Classic is sufficient. So premium, it cover all the functionalities. Then we already saw one license files for separate DSP and legacy commands. And if your if our customers they require some custom functionality, so let's say they have a payment application which is only specific to their environment and they want to have a specific functionality supported in PayShield 10K, they can always get in touch with us. We can communicate, we can involve the developers, and if those custom functionality can be supported, our developers will let you know. So you have multiple officers required for sensitive actions. In this training ahead, I'll be demonstrating how these multiple officers are created and how these multiple officers will authenticate sensitive actions. They will authorize sensitive actions. You have a direct printer connection, an option to directly connect a printer with your PayShield 10K. audit logs, all the events that are happening on your Patial 10K, they are time stamped. If you have a payment application and they just want to, let's say in total, you have 300 commands which are available for your host application. But let's say your payment application only wants to use 10 out of them. So you have an option of disabling of unused commands so that you have a very secure environment. You know that only these 10 commands will be supported. So just enable those 10 commands only. Pin block formats. So some pin block formats are considered less secure. If you want to uncheck that and you don't want to use those pin block formats, you have these settings available on your Patial 10K. Key exchange, for we provide support for TR31 key blocks. We have a master key management. LMKs is your master keys, and those master keys is encrypting and wrapping all your other set of data, all other set of keys. Multiple master keys is also supported. So on the same hardware, you can have multiple LMKs. This LMK can be used by payment application 1, this LMK by another, and so on. So you have this option of creating multiple LMKs and utilizing those LMKs for separate clients or separate applications. Logical and physical security. So the keys, they are securely held in a physical hardware, and if someone try to breach the hardware, if someone try to forcefully open the hardware, your HSM will remove your sensitive material. That way it will delete all these LMKs. So by default, all the configurations which are there, they are mostly by secure, but make sure that before installing LMKs, you configure the security settings. I'll show you what security settings I'm talking about. You have to configure those numbers, those values, because if you change the security settings, there are few security settings. If you change them, it will remove your LMKs. So you have to reinstall your LMKs again. So that's why it is recommended that make sure you configure your security settings before installing LMKs. All the host commands, they are disabled by default. When you install Patial 10K, I'll show you that section as well where you enable or disable host commands. So by default, no host application will can communicate. So you have to manually check those commands which will be used by your payment applications. If we talk about the operating system, it is Yocto Linux, very secure environment. Uh, we provide devices, drivers, and cryptographic acceleration again included. And if we talked about Linux, it is SC Linux for more security, for more hardened security. So this is about the system operating system which is installed on your Patial 10K. So about Temper, any alteration or manipulation to the system to your Patial 10K which compromises the secrets, that is your LMKs, this events will be considered as Temper. Your HSMs are FIPS 140-2 level 3 certified. So level 3 means that your devices should be temper reactive. If someone try to forcefully access your hardware, then your device should be capable to respond. So HSMs are certified, so they will respond. That is, they will remove your LMKs. So what are those temper events and how your HSM responds to that? We'll see this in the training ahead. So HSMs are temper resistant and responsive. The lid is fully locked down. The hardware is fully locked down. So if you see anything on the hardware, please don't try to forcefully open anything. So you have ventilation fans on the rear, power supply units on the rear. These are the only things which can be easily removed in and plugged in to your appliances. Other than that, don't try to forcefully open anything on your appliances. You have sensors for your motion, voltage, and temperature as well. So if I talk about temperature sensor, so we have defined an operational range for temperature. So in the data center, if the temperature is too high or if the temperature is too low. Similarly for voltage, if the voltage is too high or too low. For motion, we have configured the degree, how much motion is allowed, how much how much tilt you can do for your facial 10K. So depending on these three sensors, again, if someone these three are triggered, this is again considered as a temper event. So we have defined two levels. One is medium, another one is high. In case of a medium temper, it will erase all sensitive data. And when I say sensitive data, it is your LMKs that will be removed. But if you want to use that appliance again, you can. You have to reinstall the LMKs. But in case of a high temper, it will delete all your sensitive data. But additionally, that unit, that partial 10K cannot be used again. You have to contact Thales support. We have to order a replacement when high temper occurs. So what are the two different events? What is high temper and what is medium temper? Chases cover removal. If an attacker is able to access your partial 10K physically and they try to remove the chases cover, this is a high temper. Security cover removal. Power. There's a battery which is there inside your partial 10K. If battery is completely depleted, then this is also a high temper. U-boot temperature and voltage. These will also trigger your high temper. Medium temper. Yes, Javia?
And with a high temper, we have to request the change of the equipment, right?
Complete, yes. Complete change of equipment. Right.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. But if you have a medium temper, then even though your LMKs they will be removed, but still you can use the same hardware. You just have to install the LMKs again. So the medium temper will be caused by a self-test failure. So PCI DSS have a requirement that there should be a self-test and there are multiple parameters for self-test. I'll show you that section on the graphical interface, spatial manager. And if those tests are failed, then this will trigger medium temper. Motion sensors. Motion sensors are configurable whether you want low, medium, or high. So depending on that, medium temper will be triggered. But if you want to disable it, you can disable motion sensor as well. Use of the erase button. So on the rear panel, you have a erase button. I'll show you that section in the graph in the images, how that rear panel looks like. So if someone go to the data center, press that erase button, this will also result in medium temper. So remember these these sections here: high temper events and medium temper events. So like I said, in case of high temper, the unit is completely unusable. You have to order a new appliance. You have to get a replacement from Thales. But in case of a medium temper, all your secrets are removed. Your dynamic, static RAM, everything is removed. Your partial 10K goes to the reboot mode. There will be some indicators. There are some health LED indicators. I'll show you that in the module number 2. We have an image for that. What indicators are there? So you will see, first you will see a white indicator when the appliance is booting up. But after that, you will see an health LED. There will be a red colored LED, right? There's a separate LED for temper. So when you see a solid red, that means it's a high temper. When you see a flashing red, it means it's a medium temper. I'll show you that LEDs as well. If you have configured an SNMP trap server, then the trap will be sent to confirm to indicate that a temper event has is triggered. So it is only SNMP trap is only sent if you have configured it. So in case of a high temper, you will see this is a temper LED. This is there in the on the front panel. If you see this solid red, it means this is a high temper. If you see a flashing red, it means it's a medium temper. This is your health LED. This is white. This is red. A solid red light means that there are some error logs which are currently not seen. So I'll talk about these indicators again in the next slide. But your pay shield never recovers from a high temper state. This unit should be sent back to Thales and we'll send you a replacement. So this brings the end of our module number 1. If you have any questions for me from the first module, please let me know. Okay, I'll quickly bring the second module. Yep, this is not the one we want to see. Okay. So this is our second module where we deep dive into the partial 10K and okay, I see one question. At the end of each class, is there a quiz to test the knowledge learned? Yes, Bruno. I have prepared some quizzes, and towards the end of each day, I'll be bringing those quizzes, and that will give you an idea about the certification exam. If I'm closing the session without the quizzes, please make sure you folks remind me of that. Sometime I, forget to bring those quizzes. So please make sure if I'm wrapping up the day without the quizzes, you guys remind me. Okay. So in this second module, uh, so we have to talk about challenges as well with the payment HSM challenges. It is not feasible that you always have to visit data center to perform management tasks on your partial 10K. So we provide this option of graphical management from a remote station. So that means you don't have to go to the data center to manage your HSMs, to configure your HSM, to monitor your HSMs. So all these tasks can be done remotely. It is always recommended that there must be multiple security officers for key ceremonies. I'll show you that. For LMKs, these are your at the top of your key hierarchy. LMKs need to be securely installed. There will be multiple security officers within your organization who will be your LMK custodian. This will be demonstrated as well how those LMK components and LMK custodians are configured. Your management task, audit task, they should be done from remote location, and we provide you that functionality. We have multiple payment applications which are now in our payment world. So that hardware which you folks are using should support that wide range of payment applications. So PayShield 10K supports that, as you have already seen in the list in the module number 1. You have to be future proof as well. So if a new payment application or a new system is added, then the hardware should be quick enough to respond to those changes. And PayShield 10K is that kind of a HSM, and we always are compliance with the emerging mandates. So if, let's say, visas have issued this kind of a requirement that this should be deprecated, our next release will be uh, compliant to those requirements, those changing requirement. So 80%, so in the current world, 80% of the world's point of sale transactions, this is global number, is currently supported by PayShield 10K. This is how vast support of PayShield 10K system is, how much vast payment applications is supported by PayShield 10K appliances. So be it mobile point of sale, transaction processing, mobile provisioning, HCE, or card issuance. So 80% of the world point of sales transactions are supported by PayShield 10K. Card and mobile application, they support for all major card schemes, Visa, Discover, MasterCard, JCB, Union Pay. Everything is supported by PayShield 10K. Some other benefits which are supported by PayShield 10K, no touch remote management. So once you have installed the hardware devices in the data center, you have configured the management IP. Now everything can be configured from a remote location. You don't have to go to the data center for management. Slim form factor, low power consumption. So if you have PayShield 9K, we have reduced the power consumption in PayShield 10K. High resilience and availability, you always want have multiple live units. Those are communicating with your payment applications. Install the same LMKs on all of them so that if one of them is down, you still have high availability. If you want to achieve performance, then you still have this kind of environment where multiple patient 10K have the same LMKs and they are configured to balance your load. Backward compatibility, fast firmware updates, and clear visual indicators. For visual indicators, I'll show you one picture in the next few slides. And we have broad cryptographic support, high maximum performance, and superior service architecture. So for use cases which are supported by PayShield 10K, these includes in terms of transaction processing, we have support for transaction switching and authorization. That also includes tokenization. Mobile card acceptance, point-to-point encryption, remote key loading for ATM. So if you have to install a remote key for on ATM or your point of sale devices, it can be done with PayShield 10K. In terms of payment credential issuing, we have support for PIN management, EMV data preparation and personalization, HCE, your host card simulation applications, interface to EMV co-payment tokenization services. So some of these terms might be useful from your payment application side. They must want to know whether what kind of operations or use cases are supported by PayShield 10K. So some of these terminology will be uh, is important to understand from your payment application side. And these are some information which will be supported in future. But let's say 3D Secure 2.2, I'm not sure whether the latest release, that is 1.6, have already supported some of these features. But please always have a practice that whenever you are installing a new firmware or a new software, you always check the CRN, customer release note. That customer release note will have information about what bugs are fixed in this particular release, and what features are added, what features are removed. So customer release note is must read document. Core product feature. So the power supplies and fans, they are hot swappable. So on the rear panel, you have power supplies and fans. So if one power supply is currently down, your other power supply can still continue to run your PayShield 10K. You just have to order a replacement, bring the old non-working power supply out and insert the new one. You don't have to power off your appliances for that. Similarly for fans, on the rear panel you have two hot swappable fans. Then you have separate tools for management and separate option for monitoring. So PayShield Manager to manage your PayShield 10K appliances, and you have a separate monitoring tool as well, which will be covered in this training. And we have already talked about the certifications, which currently is supported by PayShield 10K. So now you have to understand the different elements which are there in your PayShield 10K solution. So the first thing is definitely the licenses. You will first understand what use cases will be supported by your PayShield 10K, whether you require classic or premium package. Once that is decided, you will also decide the performance level, whether you want 2500 or whether you want 1000. So as per your payment application requirement, you will decide the performance level. Then you will decide how many LMKs will be installed, whether one LMK is sufficient for you, whether you require 2, 5, or whether you require 20, depending on the applications or tenants, depending on the clients, you will have to decide this number. Then for management, definitely I would recommend all of you to have this remote PayShield manager licenses so that you can manage your PayShield remotely. If you don't use this option, then you have to go to the data center and perform the management task. For monitoring, we have a separate tool. I'll be talking about that on day 3, how you can perform monitoring tasks and what is the utilization, what is the status of your host interface, management interface. All this information can be fetched from a remote unit. So management and monitoring, two separate solutions. Here is a link. If you want to verify about a particular payment application support, you can go to this link and see the comprehensive list of the payment applications which are proven and tested with the PayShield 10K appliances. Backward compatibility is there and documentation is also comprehensive. I'll show you one documentation page. So this is the documentation for 1.6. You have a separate document for the customer release note. Quickly open it. So you see 62 pages of customer release note documentation is there about the compliances, known issues, what are the new functions, bugs and errors which are corrected in this 1.6 release. Okay, so you can see that. Then we have separate documentation for, let's say, quick start guide. If this is your first interaction with PayShield 10K, what you can do with PayShield Manager. What is the step for your installation? If you want to quickly install PayShield 10K, what are the steps for that? Then we have separate guides for console. If you want to run commands on console, if you want to get information about host commands, security operations, legacy host commands if you install legacy licenses, application manual, and then host programmer. So these are again available. Please download it from the portal, Thales customer portal, and this documents can help you give you a very good idea about the partial 10K operation. We have comprehensive documentation and support on all aspects of the product. So this is about partial product family, and now about partial manager. So this is a graphical interface to manage your partial appliances. You have your devices, you racked it into your data center. Sorry, you configured the networking and you assigned a net IP to your partial manager. Then from a remote location, if you have partial manager licenses, go to that location, access that host name or that IP via browser, and now you can do every task, every single task from that interface. The only time you have to go to the data center is if a temporary event is triggered. That's it. Other than that, all the tasks can be done from this graphical interface. Be it installing your LMK, be it commissioning your partial 10K, configure your left and right administrator, generating LMK components, installing LMK components, configure your appliance to interact with SNMP, let's traps server, be it partial monitor. You will see these steps in your demonstration as well. I'll be demonstrating these steps as well. So this will give you a better understanding. So all these tasks can be done from partial manager. So have this is completely licenses and this provide you 24/7 access to your HSMs. Remote management, avoid travel to data centers, and you have strong access control and audit. Then we have a solution called as Spatial Monitor. This is a virtual machine which you will install in your, uh, let's say, VMware or any other environment. And this, once you install this virtual machine, you will configure an IP to access it via browser, and then you will enroll your Spatial 10K. Then once your device is enrolled, then your HSM will send SNMP traps to your partial 10K to get information about utilization, what are the changes which have occurred, and you can also configure alarms and get information about your health status. So you can see separate device for management, separate individual for monitoring. So role separation is there. The individual who is managing may be different individual and the individual who is monitoring is a different individual. So it can also help you identify any bottlenecks. Let's say you have two HSM appliances and you see CPU load, CPU for one of the HSM, let's say it is 98%, and CPU load for HSM number 2, it is only 2%, let's say only 3%. So this way you can know that only HSM number 1 is serving high load. So you can manage your configuration where the load is balanced by both the partial 10K. So just this was just an example, but yes, to identify bottlenecks, partial monitor can help you with that. Okay, so before I talk about the product, front panel, rear panel, any questions, anyone? Perfect. So this is how your partial 10K front panel looks like. By the way, have all of you seen your Patial 10Ks? Have you got a chance to visit data centers and see the Patial 10K hardware? Yes, no?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you have seen it. Thank you, Javier. What about Bruno? Okay, Bruno as well. And Bruno, Braga, and Yair. Have you guys got a chance to see the hardware Patial 10K? Okay, I think they still have not got a chance. So this is how your Patial 10K will looks like. Thank you, Bruno. Uh, you have your left and your right key lock. So these two locks have a unique key. We provide you two copies of left key and two copies of right key to you. These are not just mechanical keys to lock your appliances in the data center. Rotating these keys will change the state of your appliance. So if I just name the states, it is online, offline, third one is secure. What are these three states? What is your appliance operation which you can do in all these three states? We'll talk about that in some time. But remember, changing these physical keys, rotating these keys will impact your appliance state. If one key is rotated, it is online. Other key is rotated in a particular position, offline. Both are rotated, secure. So these, please remember, these are not just mechanical keys. This will also impact the appliance state. Health LED. So this is software control and it identifies whether your unit is in operational state or whether you have any fault condition. So if the device is powered off, you will not see any light here. If you see a white light which is flashing, that means your appliance is currently powered on, it is in booting state. Once the appliance is powered on and you will see a constant white light, it means there are no error, everything is okay. If you see a red light here, a solid red light here, it means you have some unread errors. If the red indicator means unread errors, you simply have to view those errors from the graphical interface on the Patial Manager, or you can run the command on the console to see those errors. As soon as some authorized user open those errors, this red light will again be in the white state. So this red indicator is just to bring this to your attention that there are some error logs which needs to be read. Then you have a smart card reader here. If you want to do some local management task, you can use this inbuilt smart card reader. You have a USB-C console port here. If you have to establish a serial console connection, you have to configure the networking, everything. So for the first time, you require this console port to be for the configuration. Input the USB-C part here, USB-A part on your laptop, and then configure your Patial 10K. This is right here is your temper light. If you see no light here, no tamper have been detected and it's your lucky day. If you see a flashing red, if you see this triangle as a flashing red, it means your device have detected a medium temper. If you see a solid red light here, it means this is a high temper. Your device is not usable, you have to get a replacement. This here you have a service LED, not that this is a blue, it will emit a blue light when it is on. This is just to, let's say you have three appliances racked in your data center and you want to highlight a particular device uh, in the data center from a remote location. Then from a remote location, you can trigger that maintenance light And out of those three, only one will have this blue color indicator, so that whoever is the engineer visiting the data center can see which appliance needs to be operated on. This is a service light, and this is your uh, right key lock. This is your left key lock. So solid white, unit is booting and no errors. Solid red, there are some unread errors. As soon as someone open those errors, this will again come back to white. Temper, off, red and flashing. Off, all good. Solid, high temper, flashing, medium temper. Service, off, nothing is there. If you see a solid blue, it means a unit has been designated for a service, and the engineer who is who is at the location can identify it. So this indicator, this service button, this have no impact on your appliance state. It is just to highlight a particular appliance in the data center. Other than that, it have no impact. The service button. This is how the rear panel of your Pacial 10K looks like. This will be there in your if you have a Ficon based model. If not, you will be using this one. You have four Ethernet ports, two for your host communication, one for your management, your Pacial manager, and other your auxiliary port. If you have to configure, if you have want to have a dedicated port to send your SNMP traffic, that is if you want to separate your management and monitoring traffic, then you can have this auxiliary port. If you don't have if you don't want to configure auxiliary, then you can still use management as a SNMP traffic as well. So you have a separate port for management and your host communication. That is your application traffic is separated from your management traffic. Then this is for your printer connection. You have an Ethernet and USB-A ports to connect your printer. Erase button, this erase pin hole here. So this erase pin hole here cannot be accidentally pressed. You don't have to worry that what if someone accidentally pressed this button. No. You require a pointed object to insert in this hole here, press it for few seconds. Only then this erase will be successful. This is just the replication of a medium temper. This will create replicate a medium temper. All your appliance LMKs, Pacial LMKs will be gone, and you have to recreate your LMKs. Once the erase operation is successful, there will be an indicator here where this light will be illuminated to confirm that your erase is successful.
I have a question,
Yes.
and there's a log with a timestamp when anyone can press this button.
You mean there will be whether a log will be generated?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yes, yes, there will be a log will be generated, and it will if you have configured SNMP, then yes, an alert, a trap will also be sent. But on the audit logs, you will see that this button is pressed. Yes, you will see that with timestamp. Then you have these hot swappable fans, hot swappable power units. If your fans are in operational state, if they are running fine, you will see a green indicator here. If the fans are not, similarly, you have indicator for power supply units as well. If one of the fan is down, you will see a red indicator like this or a red indicator like this, and so on. You simply have to order a replacement, bring the old non-working one out and insert the working one, insert the replacement. You don't have to power off your appliances for replacing. Fan and power supply, they are hot swappable. So this is the primary components. You have an hardware where you have a software installed, and this software will be used by your payment application, and this software will be performing all the required operation. Your host computer, your payment application will send the request in a particular format, and then your payment application, that is your PayShield 10K, is going to respond depending on the state, whether LMK is authorized, and all such check will be done, and then a response will be sent back. So this is the list of algorithms, key management methods. You have X9.2 for key blocks for maximum protection in storage and usage. TR31 and 34 for your key blocks for secure key exchange. Three triple dash and AES Duckbird to support point-to-point solutions, and some AS2805 to comply with Australian payment standards. So Thales always work very closely with the relevant card schemes to implement to support the latest application in advance of their general market introduction. So before these payment applications will be introduced in the market, Thales works in advance so that even before they are live, your PayShield 10K can support that. This slide is just for comparison. If you have PayShield 9K and what have been changed in PayShield 10K. So with 9K there were four separate profiles, but now we have two, classic and premium. Previously you could use FTP for your firmware upgrade license installation. It's not longer there. It is done either via HTTPS or via console command on the using USB-A port. RSA operations, the performance is improved. There were stationary power supply for PayShield 9K. Now we have hot swappable dual. Similarly for fan, we have dual hot swappables. Interface, they have been modified, and host connectivity, this is also async, and async is now no longer supported. And yep, this is about your PayShield 10K. We have already seen the front and the rear panel, different management interfaces which are available. If you talk about the physical comparison, then the form factor, it is again reduced. I don't know why the weight is added. So it was 7.5 kg for PayShield 9K. Now it is roughly 16 kgs for your PayShield 10K. Power supply consumption significantly reduced, 40% reduction is there. And mean time between failure, how frequently your PayShield 10K are not responding, this is also reduced. The average failure rate is also reduced. So this brings towards the end of our module number 2. So again, if you have any questions, I'm all ears. Let me know. Okay, I'll quickly get the other module. Okay, so before I get the next module, let me quickly bring the quiz number one. So the quiz number one is from module one and two only. So before I start module number three, I'll quickly bring this quiz. So the first question is true or false. Please feel free to answer via chat. You can unmute yourself any way you like to answer. So the first question we have that partial HSMs are available as both hardware and software model. Is this true or false? One answer is received from Bruno Rodriguez, and he says this is false. Javier also thinks this is false. So majority have selected false. That is absolutely right. Your partial 10K HSMs are hardware appliance. They are not available in a software form. Your partial 10K is primarily associated with. What do you think is the main task for your partial 10K? A, it is for your payment transactions. B, it is for your network link encryption. C, it is for your database encryption. Or D, it is for generating your LMK components. What do you think it is the primary task? A, B, C, D. Okay, one have selected D, one have selected A. We have a split. Both the Brunos think it is A. What about you, Yair? Okay, and the right answer is with the Brunos. Both the Brunos are correct. It is for your payment transactions. So, Javier, the main purpose of your partial 10K is to secure payment app transaction. LMK generation is one of the implementation which, but again, the main purpose is still securing payment transactions. Okay, so the next question we have your temper light on the front panel of the partial 10K, it is flashing red. This could indicate A, your LMK has been removed, B, your motion sensor has been triggered, C, the chassis case has been opened, or is it D, unauthorized phone charging on one of the USB? The temper light on the front panel, it is flashing red. So Bruno Rodriguez has selected the case has been opened. So C, A by Javier, and C. Both the Brunos are on the same page. C. Okay. Waiting for Yair response for last 5 seconds. And the right answer is B. The flashing red means a medium temper has occurred. And out of all the four options, the medium temper is triggered by a motion sensor. So motion sensor, they will trigger a medium temper. So medium temper, flashing red. So in case of a high temper, the light will be solid red. What does a red light on the front panel? but with the median lamp, but the LMK is that is right. But here it is the question is more about the reason behind that. Why exactly the red is flashing red? So this is an impact, but this is a reason behind that. I'll rephrase the question. Thank you for I understand where the confusion is coming. I'll rephrase the question. But this is an impact. LMKs are removed, but this is a reason behind that. Motion sensor has been triggered. What does a red light on the front panel health LED indicate? If you have this health LED and if you see a red light here, what exactly this light indicates? A, your error log is not empty. B, you have unread error in the error logs. C, appliance is powered off, or is it D, there is no LMK installed? If you see a red light on the front panel. So one goes with A, that your error log is not empty. Another one A, okay. The last 5 seconds for selecting the answer, and the right answer is B, unread error in the error logs. So the error logs, they don't have to be empty. You just have to view those logs. As soon as you open the logs, either via Patial Manager or the console, the light return back to the operational state. So for A, you have selected that error log is not empty, or B says unread error. So you have to select B. As soon as you read them, it is again back to white state. I hope this difference is clear, Bruno and Javier. This difference is clear why it is B. Perfect. Then we have true or false. Pressing the power button on the rear panel deletes all LMK. You have a power button. Does it delete all the LMKs? True or false? Bruno and Javier and Bruno again, they have selected false, and rightly so. Power button is just to on off. You have an erase button for that. So thank you for all of you for reading the question carefully. This is power button, not the erase button. But yes, if you press the erase button, you will replicate medium temper and it will delete your LMKs. Okay, the FIPS level certification for your Patial 10K, is it 140-3 level 2, 140-2 level 3? So one response I received for B, two also for B, and waiting for one last response. And the right answer is, yep, rightly so, B, 140-2 level 3. And the last question from the quiz number 1, we have true or false. Turning on the maintenance light will impact the host connectivity. Is it true or false? The maintenance light. One response received false. And absolutely right. There is no impact of your maintenance on service light on your communication, host communication, or your page shield configuration. No, this is just a service light, and pressing that button will simply turn on one light, blue colored light. That's it. Other than that, the maintenance light or the service light will have no impact on your configurational or connectivity with the host. So this brings towards the end of our quiz number one. Thank you all for participating. I have two more quizzes which I'll bring up on day two and three. Now we're gonna take our second break for the day. If you have any questions, folks, before we take the break, let me know. Thank you, Bruno. Perfect. So see you in 15, folks, for our final session. Day one is little bit of theory, but day two and three you will see lots of demonstration. Whatever we talk about in theory, you will see that demonstration right away. So just to give you a heads up, another one more session of theory coming your way. See you in 15, folks. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to session number three for day one. Just a quick mic and screen test. I hope you guys can hear me okay and see the screen as well.
Yes, everything is okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Xavier. So before we start the final session for the day, if you have any questions, any queries, feel free to let me know. Perfect. So let's continue with the third module about configuring your PayShield 10K. If you have to access your PayShield 10K for management, for configuration, you have three different options. The first is you use the serial console connection. That will be a physical connection with your PayShield. So we will provide you a USB-C to USB-A cable. Using that cable, or you can also use USB-C to USB-C if your laptop support USB-C connection. So establish a serial connection and configure manage your PayShield 10K with the command lines. So you have to run the commands on the console to manage your PayShield. The second option is the local PayShield manager, where you require a Ethernet directly connected into the management port, and you have to be close to the PayShield appliances. You have to be in the data center. And the third is remote PayShield manager. That is, you can access it across the network. You don't have to be in the data center. You just have an Ethernet connected in the management port, And from the remote location, you can access the IP or the host name of your Patial 10K, and from there you can manage. We always recommend the remote Patial Manager option to be used for management purposes. For the first one, that is the console connection, you require PuTTY, Teraterm, MobaXterm, any utility which can be your dumb terminal emulator. So you just have to connect your Patial 10K, and then you have to input this settings 9600 baud rate N81, that is parity none, word length 8 bits and stop bits 1. Sometimes you require drivers as well, USB-C to USB-A. Then you require these drivers to be installed on the workstation, which will be used for management. You can be used the commands like QH if you want to see what is the current host port communication setting. QM if you want to see the current management port configuration. Similarly, CH or CM if you want to change the host communication setting or if you want to change the management port settings. VR if you want to check the software version, the current software version. So these are the different commands. Some of the commands are also set, can also be triggered in a specific operational state. Like some can be triggered in online, some can be triggered in offline, some can be triggered in secure. So make sure you see the documentation for the console commands, in which state which command is supported. Then with the graphical interface, you connect your PayShield management port, the Ethernet here, and then over the network IP, be it over Explorer, Chrome, or Firefox, you establish a remote PayShield manager connection. You require a card reader because I'll show you tomorrow a card reader, how a card reader looks like, and the smart cards. We will provide you these smart cards. I hope if you have seen PayShield 10K, so I'm guessing that you already have seen this PayShield remote smart cards, PayShield manager cards. I'll show you, if you have not seen them, I'll show you tomorrow how these smart cards looks like. So with the smart cards, you will be performing some configurational task. I'll show you that tomorrow as well. And this will be accessed via browser. If you have a DHCP in your environment, if your network operation environment, your infrastructure support DHCP, then as soon as you connect Ethernet, automatically an IP will be allocated. If you want to if you want to configure a static IP, you can configure that as well. Let me show you one documentation I have prepared uh, for my setting. Just let me get that quickly. Where is that document? Mm, Okay, here it is. So you have your new appliance, you have racked that in your data center, and now you have connected Ethernet on both the management and the host port. If you want to reset it, that is, if you want to reset your PayShield manager entirely, then this is the command reset, but you have to be in secure mode for that. If you can see here on the console, you will see the current mode, whether you are in secure or whether you are in online or whether you are in offline state. If you're in the data center, can someone tell me how you can change these states if you are in the data center? What you will require to change these states? Let's see if someone remembers that. If you are in the data center and you want to change this state, what do you require?
And maybe you need the secure keys.
Absolutely right. The physical keys, right? The physical left key and the physical right key, they will be required to change the state. So once the reset is complete, your appliances are again in secure state. If you run the command qm and the DHCP is there in your environment, you will see automatically an IP address is assigned automatically. But if you prefer static IP, you can run the command cm, configure management port, cm. Then you configure the static IP, subnet, and the gateway. Now make sure when you are leaving the data center, your appliance is again back to online state. Rotate the keys from secure to offline, then offline to online. Then if you rotate only one key, it will go to offline. If you rotate both the keys, it will go to online. Now leave the appliance in the data center as it is. You have remote patient manager licenses installed. Now everything can be done remotely. You don't have to go to the data center. And the only situation where you have to go to the data center is in case of a medium temper, medium or high temper. So in case of a medium or high temper, you have to go to the data center. Other than that, no need to visit the data center. Every task going forward can be done from Patient Manager that you will see in the demonstration from tomorrow. Then about your Patient Manager, you can have an auditor view where you can only see some settings, but you cannot change anything. But then you require, at the time of commissioning, you will configure your administrator cards. You have a left administrator and a right administrator. Then you will have an authorizing officer separately for each LM case. We will create that. But you see, for your accessing your PayShield 10K, you do not have support for SSH. SSH is not supported. There is no named user. Like, let's say, once you log into your Windows, you have a username and password. If you have a Linux system, you have a username and password. But your PayShield 10K do not have such named user system. Everyone is authenticated via smart card. So tomorrow I'll show you the smart card reader, the smart cards which will be provided, and these smart cards will be required for authentication. Whenever someone have to log in, let's say left administrator have to log in or the right administrator have to log in, they have to provide a smart card. So every key custodian in your organization, whether he is a left administrator or right administrator, they must have a physical smart card with them. Now this is a very important steps which you all will be doing in your patient life cycle, that is commissioning. Very, very important to understand what is happening with your patient 10K during this commissioning process. So commissioning is a process where you establish trust between your HSMs and the management cards. The physical smart card and the physical HSM, you are establishing a trust between them. We, we create multiple, you might have multiple PayShield hardwares. You might have multiple PayShield smart cards. The first step is to create a link so that you decide which smart cards will be used by with which HSMs. This is decided in the commissioning state. So for all new PayShield and management card, you will just create this, you will establish this initial key material and certificates for creating trusted path, a trusted path or a secure path between HSMs and your management cards. That trust is secured with the help of CTA, Customer Trust Anchor. So CTA is nothing but your public and private key pair. Every HSM will have a public and a private key pair. You have your smart card, you will just sign your smart cards with the private key, and the public key will be stored on the management card. So that a boundary is created that within your HSM, this is the HSM, use these smart cards only. Let's say you commission 5 smart cards, you might have to configure more, but let's say this is a smart card. On every smart card, you are just copying the public key so that they can be used to communicate with the single HSM only. So this trust is established with the help of CTA. So the first step is, if you have a new PayShield 10K, the first time you are using PayShield 10K, you will create your own customer trust anchor. When I say when you will create your own CTA, that means you will create your own public and private key pair. You will create them. You will create this public and private key pair, and now you will certify your smart cards. You will sign those smart cards with the help of this public and private key pair. So this forms a basic boundary around the set of HSMs and their operator cards. So here you are creating a boundary that these smart cards should only be used with this HSMs. There can be multiple domains, multiple CTA in your organization. If two PayShield 10K have to, they must have the same LMKs. You are planning to keep them in an environment where they will be having the same LMK, then it is important that they have the same CTA cards. This part is same. If you want two PayShield to hold the same local master keys, then they must have the same CTA, Customer Trust Anchor. If you see this demonstration here, you have a CTA Alpha, you have a CTA Bravo, multiple PayShield 10K, 3 PayShield in CTA Alpha, 4 PayShield with CTA Bravo. You have multiple left and right administrator card, multiple left and right, and multiple LMK. So with the help of this domain boundary, you can use left cards here. You can reuse the same card for other PayShield 10K as well, which is there in CTA Alpha. Similarly for right, working with third one, and you can reuse the card for the other one as well. Similarly for CTA Bravo, working. CTA Bravo, same set of card working for another PayShield as well. LMK can be installed on one. Same LMK can be, but if you try to move it out of the boundary, it will not be supported. Similarly, CTA LMKs which are under CTA Alpha, they cannot be go to CTA Bravo. Left and right administrator card for one domain cannot work with another. So this is how you created a boundary that which smart card will work with which set of PayShield. Which smart card here will work with which set of PayShield. So you decide this with the help of commissioning at the commissioning state by setting up public and private key, that is CTA, customer trust anchor. This is again very important concept to understand and to implement in your organization. If you want to install same LMK on more than one pay shield, they must have the same CTA. That's the crux of this particular demonstration. Folks, any question regarding commissioning? By the way, has anyone in the training, have they attempted commissioning? Have they performed commissioning? Or they in the near future, if you have any plans where you will be commissioning it soon? Anyone? Okay, I believe there are no plans and you have not even tried it. Okay, but no worries. Tomorrow in the demonstration, I'll be commissioning the PayShield 10K, the one I have. I'll reset it and we'll all of us together will commission it and we'll see the different steps involved at the time of creating your CTA and how CTAs are stored in different smart cards. Once your CTA is created, you will create your left and your right administrator card. So these left and the right administrator card, they are just the replica of your physical key. You have physical left key and physical right key, which is there in your data center. So these are just the replication of them. That means if you have to change the state of your PayShield 10K from a graphical interface, you require these two cards. Similarly, if you are in the data center, you require these two keys, left key and your right key. So you have your left administrator card and your right administrator card. So we talked about medium temper, that if motion sensors are triggered or if that button is pressed on the rear panel, then a medium temper will occur and all your key material is gone. And I mentioned that if you have to recover, you have to go to the data center. Aside from the LMK, the key material also include your HSM and smart card certificates, your public and private key, which is signed by your CTA. If you do not want to reinstall the CTA again to recommission your PayShield 10K, so to save those steps, we have this HSM recovery key, HRK. So with the help of HRK, whenever a medium temper occurs, you will have a passphrase. There are two passphrases which will be again with two separate key custodians. Custodian number one, custodian number two passphrases. So whenever a medium temper occurs, you go to the data center, you start the recovery from the console using the console command. You provide these passphrases. So when you provide these passphrases, your HRK is recreated, HSM recovery key. So this AES key protects the HSM's private key used by the HSM certificates. We all know there is a for signing certificates there is a public and a private key, and for that to protect that key you have an HRK key. But at this stage, if you forget the password of these HRK, then you have to recommission your PayShield 10K. You have to recreate, you have to reinstall the CTA, and then you have to do those steps again. So this passphrase will save some steps for commissioning. right after commissioning. So the sequence will be, let me get this whiteboard. So the sequence will be, first you will create CTA, then you will configure left and right administrator, then you will configure HRK passphrases, the two passphrases. Once these two passphrases are configured, you will configure additional smart cards. You will commission additional smart cards. These smart cards will be used by your LMK, they will be used by your authorizing officer, and so on. So this is the steps sequence you will follow. You will see this as of now. Today we covered the theory part of it, but tomorrow you will see this in the demonstration as well. So the recovery is only possible on the local console using SL command. So that's why I said that only recovery is the task for which you have to go to the data center. Other than that, everything can be done via PayShield Manager. So if your medium or high temper occurs, your HSM operator who have the knowledge of those passphrases they are required, those passphrases are entered and now the PayShield Manager is recovered. If you want to change those passphrases, you can, but you have to reinstall your LMKs. LMKs needs to be reinstalled if you want to continue the PayShield usage, because recovering does not mean the recovery of LMKs. No, when we say recovery, it is only the recovery of CTA, but LMKs needs to be manually reloaded again. So either you create a new, these are the commissioning step, the recap of the commissioning steps. First, you create the CTA, you create the customer trust anchor. If you do not, if you're not creating it, you have an option to reuse an existing key set. So here in this, you create a CTA alpha on patient number 1, and for at the time of patient number 2 commissioning, you select that you have an existing CTA cards. Similarly, for third patient, you select that you have an existing CTA cards. Then you will reinstall the CTA here and here. Then you commission patient installing the CTA. The first time is creation, second time is installation of CTA. Then you set the passphrase, then your left and the right smart cards, and then you commission additional smart cards that will be used within your CTA. The smart card that will be utilized on the PayShield 10K. So the states, there are different states about your on your PayShield 10K. You have online, you have offline, or you have secure. So if you see this diagram here, online, when you have chases is a lock state. This is the state of the physical keys. One key is rotated, it is offline, or this other key is rotated, offline again. Any one, either left is rotated or right is rotated, offline. Both of them are rotated, secure state. So remember this diagram here, online, offline, any one of them rotated, both rotated, secure. So this is with the help of physical keys, but your remote smart cards, left and your right administrator cards, can also help you achieve these states. So I'll show you this from the PayShield Manager interface, how exactly you can go to online, offline, and secure. But remember, if you have to go to the secure state using Patient Manager, you require both the left and right smart cards. They both have to log in with their corresponding PIN to achieve the secure state. In online state, you can view your HSM configuration. What is the status? What is the configuration? You can view that. And most importantly, this is the state in which your host application can communicate. Your host application will be able to communicate to your HSM in this state. This is the only state online. Offline, you can view your HSM configuration. You can configure your HSM. There are some tasks which can a single administrator can do, configure your HSM, but you do not have any host communication access using offline state. Secure, you can view configuration, you can change configuration, you can install LMKs, you can perform firmware and license installation, but again, you will not have any host access in the secure state. So only state in which your host application can communicate is in online. So that's the reason I said when you leave your appliances, when you rack your appliances in the data center, make sure your appliance is in online state. Then you leave the data center for offline and secure, then this can be done from the Patient Manager. There are also some smart cards which are there for your local console. So the difference is these smart cards will be plugged in directly on your PayShield 10K. You remember there is a smart card reader, inbuilt smart card reader on the PayShield 10K front panel. So if you are using performing local operation, you require these console cards. If you are using PayShield Manager, you require these Java cards. These are the newer Java cards which you will be using. For the entire demonstration, I'll be using Remote PayShield Manager. So I have these smart cards with me, which I'll show you tomorrow. So here you can see the differences between the console and the PayShield Manager smart cards. You have these are your left and your right administrator cards. You don't require any left and right administrator card if you are using console. We all know the reason why. Anyone wants to answer it? Why do we don't require any left and your right administrator smart cards if you are using console? Anyone? Javier, Bruno, Yair, anyone? Why do we don't require the left and the right administrator cards if you are using console? Come on, guys, it's not that difficult. Okay, so we do not require the left and the right smart cards when we are using console. That's right, Bruno. Keys, because you have the physical keys for that. The physical mechanical keys to rotate and get to the left and your right car, the secure or offline or online state. That's why you don't require that. Other than that, your PayShield Manager, they cannot hold your ZMK components, but other than that, they can be used for all the, they can perform all the use cases. You have a landing page on your PayShield Manager. Once you configure your PayShield, you will see this landing page. So this landing page will have information about your PayShield model, the whether how many error logs are there, what is the software version, performance level, and how many LMKs are installed, can be created on your PayShield 10K, are currently installed on your PayShield, and this information is there on the landing page. But sometime organization think, no, no, we don't want this information to be visible, because here you see you have not even logged in. You have not even authorized as a left or your right administrator. You are just accessing your PayShield manager via IP or a host name, and boom, this is the landing page. So if you want to disable this information, you have this option, you have this configuration available to you where you can disable landing page information. Okay, printer, let me quickly see how much we have to configure to talk about printers, and then we'll continue from here from tomorrow. Okay, this is the last topic we'll be covering today about printer. So printers, they are required to print your key components, pin mailers. If you want to print the utilization stats directly, you can use printer for that. You have printer that are available USB, serial, parallel, or Ethernet. These are the printer options which are available to you. Why exactly do you require printer directly to be connected to your PayShield 10K? So the reason is that if you are sending the request to the host computer for printing, then we don't know whether the path between the printer, between the printer and the host computer, whether this can be trusted or not. It could be possible that pin is sent in a clear within the application or on the cable. That's why it is always recommended that your host computer send the request, PayShield 10K, they are generating the pin components directly, and directly they will send the print request to the printer, which is directly connected to it. So there is a security pin is in the clear only on this cable. That is the cable between your host computer, not your host computer, the cable between your PayShield 10K and your printer. So that's why this support is there for directly connecting your printers on the PayShield 10K. We'll start our day tomorrow with the PayShield 10K commissioning. I'll power on the PayShield 10K tomorrow. I'll show you how you can reset it first, because from my last training I have some LMKs installed. So first thing we will do is we will reset the PayShield 10K tomorrow. I'll show you the step for that, and then we'll commission the PayShield directly. We'll create the CTA, the smart cards, left and right administrator cards, HRK passphrases, and then we will configure commission additional smart cards. So from tomorrow onwards, we will have a lots of demonstration coming your way. As soon as we cover a particular topic, we'll see that in the demonstration. So that's it from day one, folks. If you have any question for me before we wrap up our day, please let me know. Javier, Bruno, Yair, Bruno. Yes, Javier.
No, I think it's pretty clear. I think we did a material in the portal that you told us the first time. We can read again these concepts.
Absolutely. Perfect. Yes. So here, let me open this portal again. Here, after a few hours from now, it will take me 2 to 3 hours to upload. There is some conversion that take place, and so after 2 to 3 hours, you can see today's session recording, whatever we have covered today. I have recorded that and I'll be uploading here. Feel free to simply go to this portal and see the session recordings, the slides, everything is available to you. Uh, Let me know tomorrow if you have any questions. The first thing we're going to talk about is your doubts or any queries if you have. And this is your portal. And that's pretty much it from my end for today. Thank you all for joining the day one. I'm looking forward to meet you tomorrow, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you very much, you too.
Thank you, JB.
Bye.
Bye bye.